Hello everyone, my name is Bijan Terani. I'm here with my man John Flora. He's running for NJ-10 against incumbent Democrat Donald Payne Jr. What's going on, man?
Thanks for having me.
Of course, no problem. So, why are you running for Congress?
Well, I'm running for Congress for a number of different reasons. Oftentimes, my campaign manager reminds me that I am the unpolitician, so I don't think I'm very good at running for office. I'm learning though, and we're having fun doing it. What made me jump in the race and get involved? It was really the culmination of a lot of different things from my life story. But when things like Hurricane Sandy happen and you live through a natural disaster in your community, you see gun violence not changing. You see students being charged more and more money for lunch debt. When you see people in your district raising money by attending big fancy fundraisers and having to buy tickets to events. Those are the sort of things, Bijan, that make you say, well, who is representing me and how are they representing me and why can't those things change? So for me, it was really Hurricane Sandy. Living through a natural disaster, not having electricity in our home for 9 days and waiting for the federal government to send some relief and realizing we could go and get food and other necessities nearby, but it was just the point, like, if we weren't so close to the city, we would really be stranded, and our government in some ways failed us. Climate change became real, and now that I'm a father, I didn't have a choice but to say I have to challenge the incumbent who is a climate delayer and who is being paid right now by fossil fuel industry. So that, to me, that was the impetus for running. I knew that I had to actually do it because nobody else is doing it.
Exactly.
Yeah. So
why'd you pick NJ-10?
NJ-10, if I look at my children, they are the 5th generation of the Flora family in NJ-10. My relatives are buried on West Side Avenue in Jersey City, and they go back to my great-grandparents. So it's all I know, and I wouldn't run anywhere else.
So you grew up in the district?
I grew up in the district, I work in the district, I was educated in the district, and my mother's still in the district as well. A lot of my other family left, but I'm proud to still be there and be teaching there now.
That's awesome. So what would you say then is your story? Like, how'd you, your parents, how'd they raise you? How'd that affect, like, your will to run for office?
Yeah, so it's funny. As a young kid, I had the privilege of going to private school. My mother, she would always emphasize, like, education as the passport to success. I need you and your brother to have what I didn't have growing up, which was a sequence of not finishing schools and being transferred to different public schools, not being raised by her parents. So as a single mother for a while, she knew that she had to give us the opposite of what she experienced, which was dropping out of school, ultimately not even getting her high school diploma. So my mother said, I'm going to do whatever I need to do to get you and your brother through private school, and she did. So we went through our private grammar school and high school, and I started recognizing privilege like we were talking about earlier. You don't realize it until you graduate, where you say, wow, like, I actually had the chance, the fortune to attend schools that many in my district have not. So with that, it turned into education, and being the oldest of 5, I always wanted to give back some of that private education and those advantages that I received, those social capital opportunities.
So in running for office, a lot of people talk about in this country kind of like this freedom versus like equity debate. This idea of giving people actual equal opportunity. You have individuals who will say that we have it, and some others that will argue, no, we don't. So kind of like, I guess in a way, what is your general stance on that, and how would you approach it?
I think it's a great question. To say that people have equal access and equal opportunities to things is a gross misstatement. If we look right behind us here in Newark, access to clean drinking water and clean air, and an education that's going to get you to the right vocational school or to the right college is not, it's not equally accessible. And as a student of ed policy, I recall reading a lot about how certain sectors of schools right here in NJ-10 provide certain opportunities to certain children whose parents are engaged enough and aware enough to take advantage of those opportunities. I'll give you an example. It's the county vocational sector, which just secured $500 million of taxpayer dollars in New Jersey.
Wow.
That if your parents don't have the time wealth to research that and find those things out, then you might just be somebody who's attending the local public school not knowing about the higher achieving local county vocational sector school. So that's an example of same neighborhood, same everything else, different access.
Yeah.
Different access points.
Exactly.
And it comes down to time wealth and actual wealth.
So how would you say your view in that means differentiates from your opponent?
So I think that my views differentiate significantly from Donald Payne Jr. What I just talked about was access to opportunity.
Yeah.
To my understanding, Donald Payne Jr. has never been an educator. He's never been on the front lines of poverty. He is from a family of politicians, and he himself is a career politician, and trying to remain as affable as possible here, not to go directly at the congressman. I think that until you've worked as a social worker, or until you've worked in the daily lives of children in the community struggling, your level of empathy is compromised, and your ability to understand your privilege is a lot different.
Yeah.
So we could say that we both want to represent the poorest congressional district in New Jersey, defined by median household income, but to represent means to be present, to understand what needs to be done, and oftentimes to be the unpopular politician in Congress because of the demands for clean water and clean air and better education, federal funding, and the resources that cities like Newark and Jersey City need. So I think that's what differentiates us, that I'm not afraid to be unpopular for my constituents.
So if you're elected to office, then what type of leader would you say you would be?
Principles like integrity and equality, better access to those opportunities we talked about. I want to put a focal point on job creation, because if we look at the unemployment rate since Donald Payne has been elected, Nancy Pelosi gave him an endorsement when his father passed that job creation was the substance of why she endorsed him. So I said, okay, that's great. And we look 2012, when we look at today, Newark still has twice the national average when it comes to unemployment rate.
Yeah.
So what he was elected to do, he still hasn't delivered on.
Yeah.
So to me, that's a key takeaway of what would be very different. We're going after a Green New Deal, 20 million jobs that are instantly promised from a transition from old fossil fuel sector to renewable energies. That is a key difference between my opponent and I. He won't even talk about it. We've been mentioning him. We just want him to talk about the Green New Deal and where we differ. We'd love to have debates about this. But job creation, especially for a city like Newark and Jersey City that are frontline climate change communities, we have to have that conversation.
For sure. So you mentioned briefly integrity and equality.
Yes.
So would you say those two things are your core values, or would you say there's more to it?
So integrity, equality, fairness. Integrity was defined my short time in the Marine Corps, officer candidate training. Integrity is what you're going to do when gunnery sergeant turns his back. You were asked to clean your M16A2 service rifle. Right? Are you going to clean it the right way? Because I'm not watching you now. So the idea of when NJ-10 isn't watching, when Senator Menendez and Senator Booker aren't watching, what is the NJ-10 U.S. representative going to do? And that's why I emphasize the integrity component, because it's very easy to have the backroom deals, as we're seeing right now in Hudson County with the line, right? So when we talk about integrity, I'm pushing the leaders right now in Hudson County to be more transparent and allow county committee persons to be the deciders of where the presidential and down ballot endorsements go, not one county chair and a few elites, right? So when I talk about integrity, that's exactly what I mean. Regardless of who's watching, we're doing the right thing for the people.
So in this race, you have the county line. Obviously you're aware of it. Probably a lot of our viewers aren't aware of it.
Sure.
So can you just explain that kind of like obstacle and how it plays into your race?
The simple explanation is that those candidates who receive the county line receive an enormous advantage when it comes to voting. And especially when you couple that with poor voter turnout in districts like NJ-10, it plays an even bigger factor, because people go into the voting booth knowing, hey, this is who I'm supposed to vote for. It's kind of laid out already for me. And then when you throw in all the turkey donations and all the jobs that are connected and the graft and the patronage, makes the decision even simpler. Like, this is the line and this is what we need to abide by. So it's very important that we have that conversation, and then we use that conversation to get the electorate engaged.
And just for some perspective, if you don't know how hard it is to beat the line, I believe no one's beaten in over, 65 years or so?
I think that's the quote I saw online recently.
Yeah, and statistically, you have a 35 or 40% less chance of winning. It's inherently just because you're not on the line, which means you don't have the endorsement of the county.
That's right.
So can you just talk about for a second how you're funding your campaign, how he's funding his campaign, and how important it is for people in this community to rally behind you?
Yes. I'm going to answer that right after I give Hunterdon County a huge plug, because they are setting a precedent for the state of New Jersey. They are having open primaries and allowing the people to decide who the president's going to be. So I wanted to just finish that sentence you started. Funding. My opponent in the last 3.5 cycles has received almost 98% of his war chest from PACs primarily, political action committees, which are outside special interest groups, and the other portion is large individual contributions.
Yeah.
So when we look at Donald Payne Jr.'s war chest, we see 98% of his money coming from outside affluent folks and big unions and big special interest groups, fossil fuel companies.
Yeah.
We see teacher unions. We see Comcast, $3,500 just went to the congressman. And he is in a majority African-American district.
Yeah.
This is raising some concerns with the district because of what just happened with Comcast on the Supreme Court steps.
Yeah.
So we have to talk about money and how it affects your ability to represent the people that you were elected to. So.
Yeah, if you don't understand kind of how the whole PAC special interest thing functions within the electoral system, just in a very simple way, basically like when someone donates to you, you kind of have to abide by their rules. So in this election, John is a grassroots campaign, meaning he only gets small donations from people like me and you. When you get money from people like me and you, basically he's independent. He can do whatever he wants, he can vote however he wants. If you take money from a PAC or special interest, you have to abide by the interest. So let's say ExxonMobil, like they did donate to Donald Payne, then he has to vote according to their interest, because then when he runs for re-election, he won't have any money to win. But yeah,
Can I give you a quick fun stat related to that ExxonMobil?
Sure.
So I added up ExxonMobil and Phillips 66, two fossil fuel companies. $6,000 just went to the congressman this cycle, just from those two companies alone. Right? So I was like, interesting. So we look at our third and fourth quarter small donations. This is $1 from college students. A homeless gentleman at Journal Square wanted to give $1, and he said, I'll find an address for you. So I tell everybody, we're beholden to you, the college kid, the homeless man, and the doctor. We ask everybody for $1 because their votes are all worth the same. So why shouldn't their contribution be the same? We added it up. It was a little over $6,000. Our small contributions. Donald Payne got that in a minute, just from two fossil fuel companies. So this is what we're up against.
Yeah, for sure.
Okay, now I'm interviewing Bijan. So Bijan, how did you find out about our campaign? I mean, you agreed to come and do this video shoot. And, what's the story?
So my name is Bijan. I'm a sophomore at Rutgers, University of New Brunswick, and I'm a lifetime resident of West Orange, New Jersey. I went through the entire public school system, and recently I became the co-founder and treasurer at West Orange Young Dems, and I found myself aligned with John's values. I found his Instagram. I saw the type of stuff he was posting. He seemed like a genuine candidate, seemed like he supported the same things as I did. I DM'd him on Instagram. I met him in person. And just from my perspective of things, I felt like John was a genuine person. I felt like Donald Payne, just from my knowledge and where I stand politically, he doesn't care about this district. He's not in it for the people here. He's really in it for himself, for his career. It seemed to me that John was simply in it to just do good and nothing less than that. And for me, I want to dedicate my life to public service for that exact same reason. So when you see that, it's very admirable, because not many people have that sense of integrity, and not many people see the bigger picture like that. But yeah, that's why I'm supporting John.
Thank you, Bijan.
So what are some of your top issues?
Okay, so people look at the presidential election. They come out for the presidential election. That's the big deal. And then down ballot, there are some other people they should vote for, right?
Yeah.
So for me, the presidential issue by far is climate change.
Yeah.
We can't talk about choice. We can't talk about gun reform. We can't talk about campaign finance reform unless we talk about existence.
Yeah.
So climate change is the existential threat, and to me, that is number one. We have to have that conversation before anything.
For sure.
Yeah.
For sure. So if you were elected to Congress, then you'd say a Green New Deal is what something you pursue?
I say a Green New Deal. It's a resolution right now, and it needs to become law.
Yeah.
We have to do everything in our power to see Senator Markey and Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, their bicameral agreement, come to fruition and actually become some kind of policy. It could be the greener New Deal. It could be the turquoise New Deal. We can figure the language and the details out later, but right now we're talking about survival.
So from the way you've been talking, and I guess the way most people perceive you is as progressive.
Yeah.
So what would you say, what makes you progressive? How did you become a progressive?
Okay.
And how did you see the world in that lens of things? Because not many people do see the world in that kind of way.
I think that's such a profound question when you think about epiphany and you think about who I am and self-identity. The best way I heard it was, I think the first time you ever heard me speak at the Rib Shack or whatever. It's along the lines of people don't realize they're a progressive until their values are challenged.
Yeah.
It's like you've always been a progressive, and then you see this battle of values going on, and you're kind of forced to pick a side. Yeah. And for me, it rolls back a lot to all that education and clean water and clean food and just equal opportunity, equal access. So yeah, for me that was the moment through education, through climate change, through exploring the district that I realized things aren't on a level playing field here. Yeah. And
for sure.
We got to work on that.
Yeah. So 2020.
Yeah. 2020.
Who are you supporting?
2020. I doubled down on Bernie Sanders. I supported the senator when it was unpopular in 2015. We organized it for him in 2015. We went to the protest in Philadelphia proudly, and we had a few events for the senator, and it wasn't enough. We had to finish what we started. I'm just hoping that the DNC and those whom the senator backed even late in the last cycle will come around and say, all right, he's our guy, so we have to show our democratic allegiance to Bernie. That's
for sure.
This is the uncertainty that all progressives are facing right now.
All right.
Reciprocity. Yeah. We did it for you. Are you going to do it for us?
For sure.
Yeah.
So you said climate change is your thing, but you're an educator in Jersey City. So kind of how does that work out for you?
Simple evolution. 15 years behind a piano. I was like the Jack Black after school, teaching the kids to be in a rock band, loving music. Turned into what's going on with our district and why can't we adequately fund our public schools? Yeah. Turned into school board advocacy. Yeah. Turned into I need to know more about how government operates. Yeah. And I go back for a master's degree. Turns out I need to know more about how government operates, and I get more debt. Yeah. I'm in a lot of debt, so student loan forgiveness would be great. So eventually, I find my way through my master's program, and I feel like I have a solid theoretical foundation now. Okay. But I still remember all that angst from being the teacher and not having the funding. So the Honeywell Ecosystem Institute comes along and says, hey, we're willing to train teachers in Jersey City about ecosystems and ecosystem failure and stormwater runoff and what goes into combined sewage overflow systems and how to plant trees and rain gardens and capture water. And by the way, Jersey City is one of those antiquated CSO system districts where stormwater merges with sewerage and it goes out in our local waterways. Yeah. Where our tree canopy, I found out through Sustainable Jersey City organization, we're at like less than 20% tree canopy citywide. Yeah. And so instead of combating as a progressive city, we're actually adding to the climate change issue. So that turns into a lot of volunteer work, learning apps called Open Tree Map, working with high school kids and college kids, training them how to map trees in their neighborhood, then share, it's an open source platform, share the eco benefits of every tree with the city of Jersey City and or nationally. Now we're able to say that tree right there is responsible for 10 pounds of carbon sequestration per year. And that saves the municipality this much money. Oh, and by the way, 11-year-olds were doing this. Wow. They were measuring the trunk of a tree, identifying species with another app called Leaf Snap. They take a leaf off, and they're able to report to the local government why those trees are valuable for capturing runoff water, for sequestering carbon. And I'm saying, wow, I'm a music teacher, but I learned this in a couple of summers of training. That is what I would like to bring to Congress. That conversation about a national tree canopy and things like that I have hands-on experience doing as a STEAM educator, not just a music educator. So thanks for asking that. So
I'm out of questions for you. Thank you for meeting me today.
Thank you, Bijan.
Anything else you'd like to say to the audience?
I guess our parting words could be really simple. It's check out our website, www.floraforcongress.com. That's your launch point for all our social media, for our policy, how you can get involved with the campaign. You know, it's time that the rubber hits the road and we get volunteers out there meeting the people. And if the democratic spirit compels the listeners to do so, we would hope that you give $1 because your vote matters the same way your money matters, right? This is not a money campaign, a monetary movement. This is a people-powered movement, and it's time we send a message to Donald Payne and the machine that we got to get the money out of politics. We need fresh voices, we need real representation in Washington, D.C., and it starts with you watching this video today to get involved, to find your district, to find your progressive candidates and get behind them. Thanks, Bijan.
Cool. All right, that's perfect.